My name's Paul Murray. If this is the first time you're tuning in, this is an opinion show. It's all mine. Relax, it'll be okay. Now, cost of living is the number one issue we talk about on this program because it's the number one that matters around the country. And believe it or not, because of how expensive things are, people are stealing things more than ever.
Shoplifting has hit an all-time high and the cost of living crisis is being blamed. Retailers say the spike in thefts means honest customers will be forced to pay more.
And some crime statistics back up what the reporting shows us. It shows a significant increase in the number of people who have been shoplifting, and shoplifting things not that are the luxuries but the basics. Thefts from retail stores have risen up to the highest levels on record, particularly in Victoria. Fresh figures revealing that a nearly 40% jump in shoplifting incidents in the year to September 30 last year. 25,500 recorded thefts from shops. That is up from 18,000 the previous year. So we're in a scenario now where obviously businesses, big and small, are starting to lose product. That has an effect when it comes to their bottom line. And now there's some innovative suggestions as to how they can stop theft at the retail level. Now, you know when somebody steals money from a bank, inside the block of notes there will be, every now and then, a little die pack. The die pack explodes when the person takes that particular pack outside of the bank. Here's an example of somebody who did it. They try to throw away the wad, but the pink is on them. They have now been marked as the person who stole the money from the bank. Well, not quite that drastic, but almost. You know how often when you go to a department store, there'll be those little tags on clothes that somebody has to take off before you can leave the store. Otherwise, an alarm will go off or dye will explode all over them. Well, a version of that now exists for food in Australia because of how many people are stealing from shops because they can't afford the food that is in them. These photos popped up on Reddit in the past couple of days and they show that meat is now coming with a security tag on it as if it was a T-shirt, as if it was a high-value item that somebody doesn't want stolen from their shop. Coles are the people who are actually doing this, and they're doing it not just on that one piece, but an entire batch of meat with the special tags that were turning up in regional Victoria. Now, according to the reporting on this, a statement from a Coles spokesperson said the measure was part of a very small trial which is being rolled out in Victoria. So obviously, if it works in one area, it grows to another and it becomes the norm in Australian shops. It's important to note that the majority of customers do the right thing in store. Well, who's suggesting otherwise? And measures like this are for the ones who don't. Oh, thanks, Scoop. Don't you love the sort of corporate geniuses that work in and around some of this stuff? The safety of our team members and customers is a top priority, and we have a range of security measures in place to reduce the theft in our store, including security personnel, I think that's called security guards, surveillance technologies such as CCTV. We are always reassessing and trying new security measures, and we're keen to hear local feedback on the trial. Now, I don't know about you, but I think most people would be deterred that Australia and suburban Australia and country Australia is a place where we need to put security tags on meat because people are stealing it because they can't afford it. Now, for a certain section of Australians, the past couple of years has been irritating because they've had to hear about everyone else's cost of living problems. These often are the teal seats, the richer end of the political spectrum. But the reality is, for Australians, it is the number one issue. It's the number one issue that the government claims that they are doing something about, but so often they do so little about. The best they can offer is a $15 a week tax cut to people who are earning $45,000. Now, they'll say they're doing everything they can, but we'll check in a moment whether they've done one of the biggest things they can do. The answer is probably going to be no, but you know the question I'm about to ask. But what we're talking about supermarkets, there is an inquiry which has been set up by the Senate. Now, let's not muck around. This is to try to do to the supermarket CEOs what's previously done to people like, say, the boss of Qantas. A bunch of politicians wave their fingers, scream and yell, carry on, threaten to change the law, then nothing happens. But there is a problem that has long existed between the supermarkets and their suppliers that goes way beyond cost of living. It goes pre-COVID, and it's been a constant sense of tension the bigger these supermarkets have got over the decades. Now, Guy Gatter is the bloke you can see in this photo. He addressed the committee when it turned up in Orange in regional New South Wales recently. And he says that if the current balance between the supermarkets in terms of their buying power and what they tell their primary producers, if it continues to be as lopsided as it is, family farms will simply disappear. Now, Guy, who spent 38 years in the agricultural industry, has warned senators overseeing the inquiry into supermarkets that unless farmers are paid a fair price for their produce, the supermarket, then there won't be any family farms within a few years. Now, whether this is the whole idea, remember, of course, because we used to have things like suburban butchers, we used to have suburban hardware stores, we used to have newsagents. Many of these businesses have, of course, all been crushed and moved to one side because the giant retailers or the big box retailers, like people like Bunnings, are able to buy things cheaper, and because of the size of their businesses and the size of their advertising, people go there and the little person can't compete anymore. And when it comes to farming, are we looking down the future of, rather than a series of family farms, big corporations getting into bed with other big corporations, and there's no space for, in this case, the little guy? He continues. Mr. Gator also explained that the supermarket giants would often reject produce for no apparent reason. For example, cucumbers that weren't perfectly straight or fruit that was slightly on the wrong side of the colour, and the farmers couldn't argue with the retailers because, again, one thing that Australians have got when it comes to our fruit and veg is that we're a little bit posh about what we demand to eat, that it has to look as perfect as the picture on the poster. It has to look as perfect as the ingredients on MasterChef, when the reality is, if the cucumber is ever so slightly bent, it's not going to affect the eating experience. But good food goes to waste. And in a country where 3.7 million people, due to the cost of living, have had battles to be able to put food on the table, this sort of produce, rather than just being thrown away, should be going to people who desperately need it. Now, organisations like Oz Harvest, organisations like Food Bank try to get in the way. But if you have a scenario here where you're hoarding all of the supply for the supermarkets, you've already made your donation, what do you do with the fruit that doesn't look pretty enough? It's not pretty enough for Instagram. Right, one more here. There won't be any family farms in 5 or so years. It's scary. If you don't have family farms, then you will lose your food security. Bloody oath, Guy. So to you and everyone else in regional Australia, particularly watching us on free-to-air right now, stick with it, stay with it. We love what you do, and we will obviously continue to watch your fight. Now, again, I'm not particularly interested in the plethora of politicians which are going to be waving their fingers and carrying on, and senators showing off that yelling at CEOs is somehow going to make cost of living go away. But one of the things that government senators absolutely can control when it comes to cost of living is the price of petrol. It's way over $2. When it was under $2, it was a reason apparently to change the government. Anthony Albanese screaming when it was $1.75. Or what about $2? $2.10, $2.30, as it is for many people around the country. Now, this government inherited 23 cents a litre in petrol tax, but they have increased it now to 49 cents a litre. So any plans from the Prime Minister today to actually do something about the cost of living? Any plans to actually cut petrol taxes? Any, sir? No? No? Still no? Yeah, but you're doing everything about cost of living, right? Oh, that's no too.